Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
What's up?
Well,
We're here
yes, we are.
getting ready to record so that we can be on a trip next week to good old Texas.
Get my shit kickers out.
Yeah, we're going to be there to visit some family and, stuff.
And I still hold true to this. If I see a fucking tarantula, I'm never coming back.
What about an armadillo? Because guess what? Last time I was in Texas, we were driving down the road, and on the side of the road was a fucking armadillo.
I will fucking stop and try to pick it up.
They're like, aren't they dangerous? I
I
don't
don't know. They
They're
curl
like-
up in a ball.
Yeah,
I know
but
that.
they're like hard shell. I think
yeah.
they're poisonous or something too
I
if they
don't know.
bite you. So
Just
no, you don't touch them.
Stay away from the face.
You don't touch them. But yeah, I saw one in the neighborhood.
Well,
so.
lucky you.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, but also I found out it was dying, so that's not fun.
Well, not so lucky. Who told you that?
No, like it was like we're like sitting waiting to turn, and I see this armadillo, and it's like like walk step like it was like
Well, maybe it's like
it was a robot like running out of battery, and then it just like
Well, maybe it's like Olive, and it was getting its stomach itched, and it was like walking
I
in
don't
slow
know.
motion.
It was real because then when we came back, it was still in the same spot and basically on its side and kind of dead.
Maybe he just likes it there.
So it's not like a possum.
Well, we do have one long travel while we're there, one long drive. So maybe we'll see something along the way.
Yeah,
Maybe a longhorn. Ooh, that'd be cool.
that is probably a possibility. That could be a possibility because I have a feeling that when we drive, we'll be driving through some farmland areas. I don't know if it's farmland there or what, but definitely it's not like we're going to be driving through all not highways, cityscapes.
Right.
So
Well, hopefully we come back with an accent for our next recording.
a Texas accent.
We'll be like, "Hey, everybody,
That's not how people in Texas talk.
get her done."
Whatever. Anyways, anything that anybody in this room wants to talk about true crime related?
No,
Not I, said the fly. I have
but I
nothing.
want to talk about what we're drinking.
Oh, okay. Well, what am I drinking today? I am drinking a a 16 ounce. We'll say, whenever you say grande, you automatically know where you got it from. I'm drinking a 16 ounce iced caramel macchiato with extra caramel.
Nice. And I'm going to shamelessly plug Milo's tea.
Of course you are. Now, let me tell you, Milo's, I'm going to tell you right now.
You've created a monster.
You've created an absolute monster because we have tea in our home that we could make to turn into sweet tea. The problem is Milo's has mastered a zero sugar. Is that what it is, right? Zero sugar?
0 calorie sweet tea. No, it says Milo's 0 calorie sweet tea, brewed fresh, sugar free.
Okay, so it is sugar free. So for them to be able to master a sugar-free sweet tea, yes, I know, don't fucking come at me. I'm sure that they fucking use artificial sweeteners. I don't care. But the fact that they have been able to master it to where it tastes like sweet tea the way that somebody who only drinks sweet tea would like, thank you. Because if it was up to Jay, he'd be drinking the Milo's non-sugar-free sweet tea, and he's not supposed to have that much sugar. So thank you for creating something that actually is allowing him to have a drink he genuinely likes.
Yeah, and I just found out on their website.
Oh my.
They got merch.
Jay's going to be repping the Milo sweatshirts. So anyways, Milo's, if you're out there, shout out to y'all for being apparently the best since 1946. So we appreciate you and all that you do with your tea.
They have a Milo's jug hugger to keep your Milo's cold in the gallon.
Where is Milo's located? Watch, it's like Texas. You're like, let's go.
Oh, I'll tour their factory. I don't care. I'll find a way. Oh, they got a canvas bag. They have pet bandanas too. I'm trying to figure out where they're at. Bessemer, Alabama.
Oh, Alabama.
Makes sense.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was going to say it had to have been somewhere in the South. Okay. So thank you again, Milo's, for creating the best iced tea ever for Jay. Because I know that's exactly who you were thinking of when you made it.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate you. So, now that we've gone over that, who are we talking about today?
All right. So today we are talking about Dennis Nilsen. Dennis Nilsen is nicknamed the Muswell Hill Murderer and the Kindly Killer.
Oh, Kindly Killer.
Yeah, I don't know why. I actually don't know why. Now, he had 12 to 15 victims. The murder dates are 1978 to 1983. This was located, or the murders took place in London, England. And his method of murder was strangulation and drowning. Some characteristics of his murder were rape, necrophilia, and dismemberment. Dennis was born November 23rd, 1945 in Fraserburgh, Aberdeenshire. The Shire.
The Shire.
I always love the Shires.
What's that movie? Lord of the Rings has ruined that for me because every time I hear Shire, that's who I picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I like Lord of the Rings too. That's fine. So he was the second of 3 children, and the children of the family were Olav Jr., not Olaf. Olav.
I was like, hoo, big summer blowout.
Dennis himself, and Sylvia, his sister. And Dennis was born to Elizabeth White and Olav Moshim. His father was actually a Norwegian soldier, and his father had spent part of his time in World War II. And he was actually ends up getting sent to Scotland for safety reasons after World War II. So
like
he
for
was,
his safety?
Yeah. So like maybe he was on like a
like
hit list or some shit. Yeah,
yeah,
he was. Something happened that made him get moved to Scotland. Well, when he gets moved to Scotland, this is where he meets Elizabeth. So had it not been for him being moved to Scotland, Dennis would have never been born.
See? He murdered people, and now he moved to Scotland.
No. Oh. Well,
I'm saying he found his true love because he was doing bad stuff or good stuff.
I was going to say, it's not really bad
in the military.
So they do end up meeting, falling in love, getting married, but they do not last forever. They do get divorced in 1948. And again, Dennis was born in 1945, so he would have been 3 years old when his parents get divorced. This is actually when Elizabeth's father takes over the paternal role in his children's lives and starts to help raise the kids, because apparently Olav didn't want anything to do with the kids apparently afterwards. Now, Dennis does end up becoming fairly close to his grandfather, and his grandfather ends up dying when he's only 6 years old. And it really, truly kind of devastated him. But what was even worse is that his grandfather was a fisherman. So his grandfather her whole family, his mom's whole family was full of all these different fishermen. And so his grandfather would go out and do all of his fishermanly duties. Well, he ends up dying while he's away at sea on the boat. So his body gets brought back to the land, and Dennis's mother tells Dennis, you really need to say your goodbyes to your grandfather. And he's like, no, thank you. He's 6 years old.
No, I'm good.
No, thank you. And she's like, well, no, your grandpa is going to be, he's sleeping. He just looks like he's sleeping. It's fine. So she forces him to go and stare at his grandfather, who is dead.
Yeah, no, thank you. Which
I'm going to tell you right now. I saw my dad's uncle when I was probably 10 years old. We went to a funeral, and it was a closed casket funeral. And myself, my cousin, and my sister, we were we didn't know who this guy was, but we were just cool, whatever. So we took it upon ourselves during that time. And as we're sitting in the cemetery waiting for his body to be put into the ground, we were going to clean people's graves, like grave sites. So we were like sitting, digging out dirt and stuff, cleaning these grave sites. And my aunt comes over to us and she's like, hey, before they put him in the ground, do any of you want to see him? And we were like, probably not. And she goes, I mean, just a quick little peek. His casket's closed, but I can go ahead and lift the casket up. And so we were like, I guess, okay. That fucking shit scarred me for life.
Y'all are weird.
Because
you got a weird family.
Like, she lifted the casket lid, and we have never seen this guy before. And all you see is this man who looks fake as fuck, waxy as hell with a big ass nose. And it scared the absolute shit out of me. And then the only other time that I've seen a dead person in person was a friend of mine when I was a sophomore in high school. And that was the worst. That turned me away from ever wanting to go to an open casket, wake, funeral type thing, because it doesn't look like them. And it's the worst picture to have in your brain. So to force a 6-year-old to go see their grandfather, who was one of their like close people, and just to be like, well, he just looks like he's sleeping. No, the fuck they don't. First of all, even if they're not embalmed, they're white as fuck, and gauntly, like absolutely not. So that shit would scar anybody who had to sit there and look at this person at the age of 6.
No, I've gone to funerals and I stay in the back.
Yeah, it's not good. Now, it is said that since the time that he saw his grandfather, his attitude kind of changed.
I wonder why.
He became more withdrawn. He didn't want to get close to any adults ever again. Which fucking, again, you're 6 years old. How do you navigate this person's body of somebody that you were close with that now you isn't?
Yeah, don't go to your mom. She's the one who made you look.
Yeah, seriously. So he starts to withdraw from people, won't get close to adults and whatever. Now, about the time that Dennis hits puberty, he actually also realizes that he may not be heterosexual. Now, he wasn't sure if he was bisexual or gay, but what he knew is that he was starting to recognize that all the people he was attracted to were boys. And he also then was confused because all of the boys that he was attracted to were very reminiscent of his sister. And so he was like, I don't understand. Either I like boys or I don't, but all the boys I like are feminine looking like my sister. So this is fucking weird for him.
Or what's his sister manly looking?
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, like, he was trying to figure out why it is that he was only attracted to boys who looked like his sister. Okay. Now, at the age of 14, he ends up joining the Army Cadet Force, which I guess a lot of people in England, back then, at the age of 14, you could join like cadet forces. I think it's kind of like ROTC here, where you can start doing all the younger stuff. And then he ends up enlisting in the British Army after high school. And he does get deployed to West Germany. And this is actually where he discovers that alcohol is the one thing that makes him able to socialize comfortably, which I totally get. That was my problem in jury duty. I should have been drunk when I fucking showed up. God. He realizes at this point, like, if I have a little drinky drink, I am much more comfortable socializing with all the people that I typically don't want to socialize with. That's just an introvert. I'm sorry. That's just an introvert, and that's how it works. There is an incident that ends up happening where he drinks a little too much and he wakes up on the floor of his friend's house and is like, kind of, what am I doing here? Whatever. But he rolls over and he starts to realize that his friend is over there, kind of like passed out. Nothing sexual happens, but this is what ignites a sexual fantasy of his, which is to have sex with somebody who is immobile or unconscious. So nothing happened at that time, but that was the time where he was like, ding, ding, new fantasy unlocked. Next time somebody's passed out on the floor and I'm awake, that's my time. So
yeah, I've seen people passed out, asleep, whatever. Yeah,
that's
not that thought process.
That doesn't cross your mind. Okay. I didn't think most people would.
Yeah.
Now, in 1967, Dennis is also deployed to South Yemen. And during this time in South Yemen, there was actually ambushes going on a lot and abductions of the people who were being deployed there. Several of the people that were part of his group that went were kidnapped and murdered. Dennis was actually abducted and he almost died, but he fought like shit and escaped. So he's one of the few people who fought the South Yemen abductees and fucking escaped.
Well,
Dennis was then sent to serve in Cyprus and in Britain before he ends up getting sent back to Germany, right? So he's still in the military doing his thing, going all over the place. In 1972, he ends up leaving the military. He retires from the army, so he's not dishonorably discharged or anything like that. He retires from the military and he becomes a police officer. He actually serves for 1 year in the Metropolitan Police Department. During the time that he was this police officer, he also started to frequent local gay bars and started to explore his sexuality in that manner. Again, nothing really wrong with that because it's like 1972 and he was born in 1945. So he's like 20.
And in the 70s, peace, love,
well,
all
and
that fun stuff.
he's like what, like 27, 20, whatever. He's in his 20s, right? Because he's not quite 30 yet. Right, because it's 45 to, yeah, okay. So he's in his 20s. Like, this is what you do. Like, explore your life. Have fun. Do your thing. He does end up leaving the police department and becomes a security guard at one point as well. And then he leaves that job and he ends up actually settling in a job in a job center, which I don't actually know what a job center is because we don't have anything called a job center here.
And my guess would be like maybe where people go to find jobs.
Maybe. I don't know, but it just says he ended up settling in and working in a job center, and he worked there for quite some time. So whatever a job center is in the UK, that's where he was. Now, Dennis does have several romantic relationships throughout this whole time, but none of them last very long, and this actually leads him to believe that he was incapable of having a normal relationship ever. December 29th of 1978, Dennis meets Stephen Holmes at a pub. Now, Stephen is a 14-year-old teenager who is actually trying to buy alcohol at the time. Dennis realizes that Stephen's struggling with getting anybody to buy him alcohol, so he basically says, "Hey, guy, do you want to come back to my house and we can have drinks at my house?" To which Stephen's like, "Yeah, okay, cool." Now, Dennis does come out later and say that at the time when he met Stephen, he did not realize he was 14. He thought he was older than 14. Not that it fucking matters. Okay, it does not matter.
Yeah, it does not matter.
But the part of it, I guess, that would matter is for a 14-year-old versus like somebody who's 18 is literally the difference between a pedophile and not, right? So in his mind, he was not looking at a 14-year-old boy. That's just what he says. Whether we know or not, I don't fucking know. Now, the two end up drinking a bunch. They end up drinking so much that they pass out. And in the morning, in the morning, Dennis wakes up. Stephen is still passed out, or not passed out, but sleeping. And Dennis didn't want Stephen to leave. He wanted him to stay. And he was afraid that if Stephen woke up that he would go home, and he didn't want to. And the thing was, New Year's Eve was just around the corner and he wanted a New Year's Eve date. So Dennis decides to use a necktie and strangle Stephen until he's unconscious. And then he drowns him in a bucket of water. He still doesn't have a date, by the way.
Right. Like, to me, I'm like, wait, that
didn't give you the date that you needed.
That doesn't add up.
I apologize in advance. So earmuffs if you don't want to hear sexual stuff. He then masturbates over the body. And then he puts the body under the floorboards of his home.
That'll smell.
I guess he does have a date then in that.
Yeah. In that sense,
area.
He's in the house with him.
Now, on December 3rd, 1979, so this is literally a year later, Dennis meets Kenneth Ockenden, who was 23, in a pub in London. And Dennis offers to give Kenneth a tour around London because he's not from there. So he's like, "Hey, I'll take you around. I'll show you all the things." Well, they do. They go around. He kind of shows them stuff. And when they get done with their tour, he says to Kenneth, like, "Hey, if you want, you can come back to my house. We can just kind of hang out, have some drinks and chill." To which Kenneth is like, "Yeah, okay. Like, yeah, let's do it." So they go back to Dennis's home. And while they're there, they're listening to music, just hanging out. And in the middle of listening to music, Dennis decides to strangle Kenneth to death. Now, the following day, he poses Kenneth's body in multiple positions and took pictures. He then wraps the body in plastic and he puts this one under the floorboards as well. So now he has two bodies under his floorboards.
Starting to pile up.
A year apart. Now, a man named Martin Duffy, who was 16 years old, was hitchhiking when he actually crosses paths with Dennis as well. He is also invited back to Dennis's home. He is then strangled into unconsciousness, and then he is drowned in the kitchen sink. For the next 2 days, the body is washed repeatedly, and Dennis continues to kiss the body and masturbate over the body, and then washes it and does it again for 2 full days. He does eventually put the body also in the floorboards with the others. So if we're keeping track, that's 3 bodies, baby.
3 bodies under the
floorboards. One of them's a year old at this point. By August of 1980, Dennis is like, my fucking apartment smells awful, and I need to find a way to get rid of this smell.
And I'm trying to think of, like, in an apartment.
I don't know if it's actually an apartment. To be fair, it could be a house. I actually
sounds like under the floorboards of an apartment.
It may be a flat. It
like,
doesn't say. It just says home.
Yeah.
I just say apartment because I like to make stuff up in my. I like to make stuff up.
Well, I would just like you lift your floorboards, then it's your neighbor underneath you.
Thank you for calling me out. Okay. Anyway. So he's like looking around like, I need to figure out how to get my house smells awful. So it smells like decomposing bodies.
I wonder why.
fucking wonder why. So by this point, he had actually tried a multitude of ways to get rid of the smell from the decomposition, and nothing was working. So he ends up finally removing the bodies from the floorboards. So he's like, well, I guess I got to get rid of them because what else am I going to do? And so he's like, well, the best way to do this is take them out, dismember them, and then burn them. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's what he does.
Okay.
Also, in August of 1980, Dennis meets William Sutherland, who's 26. Now, William is looking to make money for sex. So he's literally just trying to sell his body to make money. Dennis initially declines this offer from William. However, supposedly he wakes up the next morning with the dead body of William next to him, and he claims to have no memory of anything happening that night.
Right.
So my thing about that is he's been willing to discuss all of the other ones, so why not that one? My guess would be they got a little drunk and he killed him, and maybe he doesn't quite remember everything, and therefore just like doesn't work out in his favor.
Or he paid for the sex and he doesn't want to admit that part.
So he's like, I said no. Yeah. And then he just did. I don't know. Yeah. Now, March of 1982, Dennis invites John Howlett, who's 23, back to his home for drinks. Now, Dennis ends up trying to strangle him, but John wakes up in the middle of him. Like, he passes out and then he wakes up in the middle of this thing and he fights like fucking hell. But Dennis does eventually overcome him, and he strangles him into unconsciousness. And then here's the thing. He tried to strangle him to death 3 different times and he would not die.
That's a fighter. Even when you're passed out.
In my mind, just let him go.
Yeah.
Like he, first
Strike
of all,
3,
yeah,
you're done.
Like, first of all, he already tried to fight you while being unconscious and came back up, woke back up. And then now he is unconscious and you can't get him to actually die. Like, maybe you just let this one go. So because he can't get him to die by strangling him, he ends up drowning him in the bathtub. Now, John's body is dismembered and he flushes. So Dennis flushes the organs and the flesh down the toilet, which also not a fucking smart idea, by the way. That's going to clog the shit out of your toilet. So don't do that. I mean, don't kill anybody, but don't do that. So he then also puts the bones that he has, from the body out with the garbage, and literally nobody notices. I mean, I guess you wouldn't notice, but I don't know. Femurs are pretty fucking big. Yeah. So I'm like, how are you not? That's a pretty big ass bone. Like, I don't know. Then in late 1982, Archibald Allen, who was 27, was invited back to Dennis's home for food. And while they're eating, hanging out, discussing, Dennis strangles Archibald. And he puts his body into the bath as well, drowns him. And he keeps the body of Archibald actually for 3 days in the bathtub in his home.
That's gross.
And then Dennis ends up actually having to take a day off work so he can dismember the body and get rid of it. Because he didn't have time, apparently. All the other times, did not have time. Now I'm not quite done, but here's the thing. This is the only reason why I think that there's a really good chance that he did not know that Stephen was 14. Because if you notice, all of his victims are 20 or older, minus the hitchhiker, but he was 16, and 16-year-olds can definitely look older than 18 years old. So when you look at the pattern of the people that he killed, none of them are children. So I really do think there's a very good possibility that he thought, being that he was meeting this kid in a pub, but he was not old enough to necessarily get alcohol, I do think there's a very good chance that he really didn't know he was 14. Not that that matters, but pedophilia is one of the things that, you know, that's something that he would be accused of. And I would not be able to say that he's a pedophile. Now, on January 26th, 1983, Dennis meets a man named Stephen Sinclair, who's 20 years old. And of course, they drink, they consume some drugs together. They hang out for a hot minute. You know, they drink, smoke, drank, drugs, all the thing. And Dennis ends up actually strangling Stephen while he's sitting in a chair. And he ends up washing the body. He puts talcum powder on it and then lays that body on the bed. He then puts multiple mirrors around the bed. He undresses himself. He lays on the bed with the body, and he even sleeps there for one night with this body. He then dismembers the body and puts it in trash bags and puts it out into the garbage. And again, nobody noticed.
They're like, damn, his garbage getting heavy.
Now, February 4th, 1983, Dennis actually makes a complaint to his apartment. So he is in an apartment. Oh my God. So he has floorboards in his apartment. Okay. Because he might have moved. I feel like I saw a thing where after he built the thing that he burnt, like after he burned the bodies, he actually moved to an apartment. I actually think so. Not that that's important, but anyways, he's living in an apartment apparently at this point. And he makes a complaint to his apartment manager, and he's like, hey, like, what the fuck? My drains are blocked. They're clogged. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll send out a plumber to come check it out. So this plumber comes and he tells Dennis, like, let me take a peek. Let me see what we can see. And they're like, cool, okay. So he comes out from looking in the pipes and he says to Dennis, like, oh, you know what? I found this like small blockage of bones and some like fleshy type substance in there. So I'm going to kind of like, you know, I cleaned that out. To which Dennis replies, that must have been someone who have flushed the KFC down their toilet or something.
Grilled chicken.
So the next day, the plumber told him, like, okay, yeah, okay. So next day, the plumber goes to the manager of the apartment and says, yeah, so this is what I found. I think it's probably best if we go in there and I'll just like run, I don't know, whatever, through all the pipes. So the apartment manager is like, yeah, I agree. Let's go in there. Let's clean out all the pipes. Let's get this, you know, fixed. So they show back up to Dennis's apartment and they open up the pipes and start looking through the pipes and realize somebody cleaned everything out. The pipes were completely clean. They look further into the pipes now because they're like, okay, maybe it just got moved or maybe he cleaned out that section or whatever. And they find as they go down the pipes more that there are more bones and there is a more fleshy like substance farther down. To which the plumber then looks to the manager and the manager looks to the plumber and they're like, this seems a little fucking weird.
That's a lot of KFC.
We should probably call the police because the fact that there's this many bones and this weird substance and it's not just in one area, it's not like a one-off. Okay. So they call the police. The police come, they collect the bones and the stuff. They run some tests and realize that the bones are identified as human bones. So on February 9th, so 5 days later, police stand outside of Dennis's door and wait for him to come home because they would like to talk to him about what the fuck was going on. And while they're standing there, waiting for him to come home from work, they can smell like a weird smell coming from underneath his door. And to be honest with you, the detectives that were there said that they knew that it was the smell of decomposition. Like they knew just standing there, because I've heard that from multiple police officers.
Yeah, that the
once
smell
you have
of,
smelled death,
yeah.
you will always know when decomposition and death is in the air because you know what it smells like.
Yeah, we do have to drive behind that semi
do.
truck.
We
Oof.
do, and it's not wrong. Like that's not a smell you're gonna mistake for anything ever again. So they're standing out there waiting. Finally, he shows up at home, and they basically tell him like, "Hey, we found more. Your apartment manager and the plumber found more bones and more flesh in your pipes, and we would just like to know like what's up, what's going on." Then they tell him, we kind of have suspicion that you might have, maybe there's more to these bones that are in the sink. I mean, in the pipes, because we also know they're human bones. So where is the rest of what we have found in this drain? Where's the rest of it? To which he brings them inside and shows them a closet full of body parts.
So is he keeping body parts of?
Apparently.
Wow.
Or maybe he just hadn't gotten rid of them yet. Like he had to be mindful of how much garbage he put out or something. I don't know. So police ask him if there are more victims, to which he says he would tell them more when they bring him down to the station. So Dennis is then arrested, and he is actually set to go to trial. He has a whole conversation with them, tells them all the things they need to know about the murders. He is assessed by 2 psychiatrists to determine if he is sane or not, just purely based off the fact that when they say like, where's the rest of it? And he's like, oh, come on into my closet and I'll show you. And then when asked if there's more victims, he's like, let me tell you at the station. Like, it's just weird, right?
Yeah.
It is discovered by the 2 psychiatrists that he has problems with emotions. Surprise, surprise. And that his only emotion that he actually ever could express pretty much his entire life is anger. Also not a surprise.
Interesting.
He was diagnosed with borderline pseudo-normal narcissistic personality disorder as well. However, he's able to stand trial. So the things that they find out about him is not enough
to say you're crazy.
To say that he didn't know what he was doing was wrong. So at his trial, he actually stated that he never premeditated to kill any of his victims. He said that it was something that occurred suddenly, moments before the act of the murder, which I don't buy for a second. I don't buy that for a second. He was found guilty of 6 murders on November 4th, 1983, and he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Which I was like, what the fuck? But then I forgot it was England and they do things a little differently.
Which would be 2008.
Right. But I'm also like, really? Oh, really? Like, how old was he? So if it was 1983, he was born in 1945. He's only in his 30s, yes?
Yeah, he's
like 38.
38.
So he's 38 years old, and they're telling him that he needs to serve at
he'd
basically
only be 63.
At least 25 years, and then he might be able to get out of jail.
Yeah.
Like that for killing 12 fucking people.
6.
I'm sorry. I forgot. They only charge him for 6 murders.
Yeah.
But for killing 6 people.
Yep.
Those 6 people's life is only worth that? Really? However, the Home Secretary, Michael Howard, ends up actually changing Dennis's sentence to a whole life sentence and removed the possibility of parole. Dennis's literal response when he was told that, hey, by the way, you're not going to get that sentence. You're actually going to be in jail for life without the possibility of parole. His response was, that's fine. I don't want to ever be free again anyways.
Well, stick it to the man.
Like what? Then in May of 2018, Dennis dies in prison. So how old was he when he died? 2018. I don't know. I mean, he was born in 1945. I can't do that math. I can't even try to do that math. But you can.
73.
Okay, so he lived to be 73 years old in prison. That's a pretty...
Yeah, that's a long time.
Considering he was put in prison in 1983, that's a long time. Mm-hmm. That's a long time. Now, 2 days prior to his death, he had actually been taken to the hospital for abdominal pains, and he underwent a procedure there. But the cause of death is he died from a blood clot from that procedure. Now, after the procedure, apparently he was brought to like the prison hospital, or he was brought. This procedure happened in the prison hospital, and I think he was put back into his cell afterwards. And it was said that he died in an unsurmountable amount of pain on the floor of his cell. Food for thought. Just letting you guys know. Not saying anything else.
Y'all
just
can do with
that what you may. So that is the story of Dennis Nilsen. Obviously, I have some shots.
And obviously, we want to hear him.
Okay, so 8 months after his first kill, Dennis built a pyre. Now, this is what you would use. This is what is used in many cultures with the dead to burn them, to incinerate them, right? Because it's part of their culture. So he built one of those, and that's what he actually used to incinerate the 3 bodies from under his floorboards. Like, he built it. Maybe he built it because then if anybody asked, he could be like, oh, it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Now, Dennis also, Kenneth, which was the second person he murdered, dug up Kenneth's body from the floorboards 4 different times and reburies him 4 different times. Like puts him under the floorboards. And in between each of the burials, so he would dig him up, or not dig him, whatever, take him out from underneath the floorboards. In between each time he did that, he would actually put the body in a chair in the room with him and drink with it. Then he would wrap it up and put it back under the floorboards.
So he was like, that was my friend.
Basically. Which you would think he had some insanity issues, but
Yeah.
apparently not. Now, on the way to the police station, after he had been arrested, one of the officers asks him if the body parts belonged to 1 or 2 people, the body parts that they saw in his closet. To which Dennis says, about 15 or 16 since 1978. So he was keeping the body parts, clearly, because the body parts in the closet were not just that of recent victims.
Right.
Now, once he's at the station, he does confess to all of the murders and says he killed like 15 or 16. He also shows the police where the remains had been destroyed at his former home. So he did end up moving. So he does show them like where he had burned them. Dennis does actually end up writing a 400-page autobiography while he was in prison that was titled The History of a Drowning Boy. I don't know if it ever went to market for anybody to read. Hopefully not. Now, some of the items that were found in Dennis's home can actually now be seen and found in the New Scotland Yard's Black Museum. So the things that you will find in that museum that were once in Dennis's home are the stove, which he used to boil the heads of his final 3 victims, headphones that he used to strangle Kenneth, knives, which he used to dismember his victims, the ligature that he used to strangle his very last victim, and the bath from his home where he drowned John Howlett.
So what you're saying is we need to go to Scotland Yard and check out
New
this
Scotland.
museum.
So if I ever make it to that area, I would love to see New Scotland Yard, the New Scotland Yard's Black Museum. It's got, if I'm not mistaken, that's the same museum that also has the stamps and the notes from Jack the Ripper, and also has a bunch. I mean, it's kind of like our true crime museums here, but it's over there. Is it Scotland Yard that has, I think one of them has even the head of a serial killer, like in a thing. Like it's a fucking crazy thing. And the final thing I'll share with you is a quote from Dennis himself. And he said, "When I was with people, I was in the real world. And in my private life, I snapped instantly into my fantasy life. I could oscillate between the two with instant ease."
Take that in.
I know. I know. So he was, according to him, he's able to navigate easily between fantasy and real. But the fact that he's able to see there's a fantasy and real is why he's not fucking insane.
I was going to say that's probably
because he
why.
can navigate between the two, knowing that one is fantasy and one is not.
Yeah.
So his fantasy life and his personal life was killing people. That was his fantasies, and he was able to easily do it. So that is the story. The final part of Dennis Nilsen. He's an interesting serial killer. He was not like overly crazy on anything, but just overall interesting. And I feel like had people wanted to pry, they probably, when he was still alive, he probably would have sat down and talked to them. I feel like he's that type of serial killer that may have actually conversated about his.
Yeah, it would have been
crimes.
interesting to dig a little deeper and understand
Yeah.
like thought processes and stuff.
Yep. But anyways, that is the end of this episode. So if you like what you hear or you like the things that we be talking about, please make sure that if you're not following us, that you do click that follow button, because it will let you know every Thursday when a new episode is posted. And that It's pretty much all I'm going to tell you.
And if you like it enough, share us.
Oh, of course. If you like.
Yeah, share
Yeah.
us.
Please.
Share us
sure.
with all your friends and
I mean,
family.
to be fair, I'm not going to lie. I feel like people must be sharing because I can only tell so many people and our downloads continue to go up, which means people are finding us somehow. So we appreciate
if you have shared us, thank you.
I only have one other thing left to say, and that is thank you so much for listening to us tell the story about the Muswell Hill murderer named Dennis Nilsen. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.